What's up, everyone? It's the interview queen Alicia Tru here, and be sure to watch True Heel Heat.
Hey guys, it's Rosa, and welcome to True Heel Heat.
Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip-hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with True Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
Hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for AEW X NJPW Forbidden Door 2024 review, breaking down the 15-match card for the sickos, featuring All Elite Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, STARDOM, CMLL, some AAA sprinkled in as well, and I am gonna be joined by an all-star cast here. But first up, we have my esteemed colleague. He's making it a ritual now of showing up for these AEW pay-per-view reviews. My main man, one of the most knowledgeable and funny individuals talking professional wrestling out in the game. You see his work over on Post Wrestling on one of the best podcasts over there, the N.W.A. podcast, the one and only Professor Kris. How are you doing?
Man, I'm chilling, dude. Just gathering myself. It's been a long morning, man.
I understand. I am on not that much sleep at all because
are you still in the UK?
Yes, I am. I'm still in the UK. I'm here for the summer. So I talked about it when you were here for Double or Nothing, and man, I think this pay-per-view went longer than Double or Nothing, and I was up until 5 a.m. Watching the end of this show, and then my kids don't let me get any sleep, and I was up at 9 a.m. So I am ready to go to talk about the Forbidden Door show. I'm very glad for you joining us today. We got two more about to pop in and join us, but we appreciate anyone who is watching us live, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We appreciate y'all for the support. Appreciate y'all for watching. Remember to show your appreciation back the simplest way possible. Just drop the thumbs up on this video if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us on Facebook, you could drop a thumbs up, a heart emoji, an angry emoji. However, AEW X New Japan Forbidden Door made you feel, you can let us know with those emotes. You can drop a heart if you're watching us on Twitter and retweet the video for sure. And of course, if you're watching on any of those platforms, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you and hear your thoughts, your hot takes, any of your questions about Forbidden Door. You can leave that in the live chat. We'll highlight as many as we can. But if you want to make sure your comment is highlighted on screen, remember to show your support in the best way possible with a super chat donation. Any dollar amount matters. It goes back to the contributors that you see on screen with us here. And we always love that support and the love that you guys show us with those super chats by just hitting that $ at the end of the chat there. We appreciate that for sure. And we already got in the chat Ronin Ghost, who we haven't seen in a while. Thanks for joining us today. He said popped in just in time. We got a happy birthday wishes to our main man, Chris, the #1 Bailey fan in our chat. He says, happy birthday to my mom. Happy birthday to her. Happy birthday to you. So I hope you didn't stay up until 5 a.m. last night. You could treat your mom well on her birthday. We also got Ricky saying AEW pay-per-views never let us down. And man, I would say right off the bat, Chris, this pay-per-view was better than the last one we discussed. This one was better than Double or Nothing to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I thought it was a fine pay-per-view. Outside of the technical issues with Bleacher Report, I thought the show itself was good. It wasn't like they didn't overwhelm you with a bunch of stuff, but I thought what was there was fine.
For sure. We got Tyrone Kid who says SP3 with those Paul Heyman eyes. Nah, man, I got more sleep than Heyman did before Friday night, before he went through that table after not acknowledging Solo. I got much more sleep than him. We got Frantic World. He says, what's up, SP3, Professor Kris, and chat. We got Alex who says, Will Ospreay going to come out to go ninja, go with that haircut he currently got. I mean, I need Will Ospreay to, get the trim up, you get the sides, you had the nice little fade going in New Japan. I don't know what's going on with the mushroom top. I don't know what's going on with that. Right. I love it. You need to work on that. He was having the nice fade ups when you were in the UK. I don't know what's going on now. We also got Frantic World who says AEW x New Japan Forbidden Door 3 was really good. I'm rewatching it now. I love that. We got Ricky who says, Will Ospreay the wild card ? No, I think that they kind of gave it away on Collision, who's going to be the wild card on Wednesday, since of course they did talk about, the Young Bucks on Dynamite said they are picking the wild card in the Owen Hart Cup. So I think we all know who that wild card is going to be. We're going to be hanging with him, man, come Wednesday in Chicago. We got Chase in the chat who says, I don't like this Will Ospreay looking like a Cali influencer haircut. Yo, there'd be mad Cali influencers with blonde hair that got the same haircut as Ospreay. That is funny. We also got Alex Powell who says, Fletcher leaving AAA to go main event CMLL is hilarious. Man, everybody's leaving AAA they still got Alberto El Patron main eventing shows. What is up with AAA right now? AAA has been on some crack ever since Vikingo got injured.
Right, yeah. I don't understand having Alberto El Patron main event myself, but I mean.
And then I think the next Triple Mania is main evented by Satam Singh and Jinder Mahal teaming up.
Ah, interesting. Huh.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting,
Yeah. I'd actually watch that for some reason.
he's like you had me at Satam Singh and Jinder Mahal.
I know, right?
Oh, we got Big Man Dogs who says Ospreay looks like he listens to Logan Paul's podcast and falls for his crypto scams. Y'all ain't gonna do that to my boy Will. My boy Will put in work last night, so y'all can't be throwing that type of shade at him. Please stop. Yeah. But yes, keep coming with those comments in the live chat. Like I said before, we'll love to have the super chat donations as well. They help out all the contributors, help the channel keep going. So we always are appreciative of that. But we start off all these pay-per-view reviews. Kind of give your one word to your overall thoughts for last night's pay-per-view Forbidden Door 2024. Chris, what's your one word?
One word would be acceptable.
My one word would be nonstop. It just felt like
true, yeah.
non-stop matches from like the 0 hour on. Like I was smart enough. I was like, yeah, with 4 matches on the 0 hour, I was like, this is the first time I have to turn on 0 hour at 6:30. Usually I know with 0 hour, like the first 30 minutes is just going to be the talking heads talking and previewing the card, showing the video package and whatnot. But I knew because they had 4 matches scheduled and announced that I would have to start watching early. I did not expect them to throw on a 5th match on the 0 hour.
Yeah, man, I thought that was weird too. Like there were like so many matches on the pre-show. I'm like, I almost wanted to just sit out the pay-per-view just because of that, man. Like my time is valuable, you know.
Yo, if you watch the 0 hour, you got an episode of Rampage. This was like a really good episode of Rampage on the 0 hour.
Yeah.
You had the hosts of the 0 hour, Renee Paquette, RJ City, Jeff Jarrett, and Rocky Romero. And just like 20 minutes into the 0 hour, we got a surprise 15th match on this card, as it was Kyle Fletcher going one-on-one with Serpentico. This I knew as soon as I saw the participants in this matchup, I was like, Tony Khan is just going for the sickos in this whole thing by adding a 15 match after people were complaining about 14 matches for this show. So he throws in a 15 matchup. And this was also the purpose was to give some Kyle Fletcher some heat back after he lost in CMLL to Atlantis Jr., losing the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. And he makes quick work of Serpentico, getting the win in 3 minutes, 12 seconds. He hits his reverse tombstone power driver right on the top of Serpentico's head, but he lifts him up before going for the 3 count, brings him to the top rope, gives him the El Generico brainbuster in the corner to pick up the win here. Total squash that did not need to be on this show.
Nah, it didn't. Yeah, and I missed most of it also, so.
Yeah. You didn't miss anything, honestly. The last match that was announced and advertised for 0 hour was announced on Saturday's Collision. You had Private Party versus Gabe Kidd and Roderick Strong versus the House of Blacks, Brody King and Malachi Black versus the cool tag team of Tomohiro Ishii and Kyle O'Reilly. Of course, Gabe Kidd cannot get along with anyone who is not in the Bullet Club War Dogs, and let alone the War Dogs themselves. They start putting in chops to Kyle O'Reilly and fighting over who's going to chop O'Reilly as Roger gets in Gabe's face, telling him only he can chop his friend. They start arguing with one another, which leads to Ishii coming in. He starts running Raw with double clotheslines on both men. We got a nice little exchange between Brody King and Tomohiro Ishii that didn't end nice as Ishii dropped Brody King right on his fucking head with a brainbuster. That was just, I was scared. I thought Brody got injured there. Kid hits a brainbuster on Ishii, but he gets chopped down by King. Private Party start hitting stereo flip dives before Cassidy rolls King up with tights for a 2 count, only to be picked up and dropped on his head with the Gonzo bomb. So the House of Black pick up the victory here. 8 minutes, 35 seconds. I thought this was a good matchup here. I didn't give a rating for the first match, but I'll give a rating for this one. This was pretty good. I gave it 3.25 stars. Any thoughts on the 4-way tag?
I think so yeah, it was fine. Yeah, I thought it was probably about 3 stars. I didn't know any of the backstory going on in this match, so that's my fault. But I thought like it was entertaining for what it was.
There you go. We also got in the chat. I did like that they added some story to this random matchup that they added on the pre-show, because you had Roderick and Kyle O'Reilly in there, and they're still doing this whole thing where Roderick views Kyle O'Reilly as his friend and wants him to join up with Undisputed Kingdom. And the Gabe Kidd, Roderick Strong thing was cool, and Gabe Kidd has history with Tomohiro Ishii. But this was really a vehicle for House of Black, who are the #1 contenders for the Unified Trios Championships, just waiting on Buddy Matthews to end his honeymoon, which I think he's gonna try to trap Rhea Ripley. I think he's gonna bust one out and get her pregnant while she's out injured. But That's just my theory. That's a conspiracy theory. I'm sorry, folks. But at this point, we got to bring in someone who was there live in Long Island, the USB Arena. He was there representing Tru Heel Heat along with his significant other, the one and only Tru Draw himself. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm tired as fuck, man. I'm still recovering from last night.
So the show ended at midnight your time. What time did you get home?
I got home at before 2 o'clock, before 2 a.m.
You know, they gotta chill with that. They gotta chill with that. That's wild. That's what it's first of all, it's wild to end a show at midnight. And I know you don't have an issue with it. You love getting your money's worth, but I think that's a little excessive. That's to me, that's a little excessive.
It is to an extent. It's just that,
and the fact that I can name a few matches even on the main card that did not need to be on the main card.
Oh no, me too. It's one of those things where I think when it comes to AEW pay-per-views, I've gotten used to it to the point I'm like, all right, I know what I'm getting myself into. So yes, it wasn't necessarily a surprise of what time it ended. The travel back wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest with you. It's just that we had a very close call. For one, the bus that we were catching up with, it was the last bus that was going to the train station.
Yeah.
So we had to run our asses off. And then the time that the train said it was leaving, it says that it arrived. And I'm just like, fuck, we're screwed. And then all of a sudden when they got us to the station, the train was still there. And I was just like, holy shit, we gotta catch it. So basically the people that got off first, we were able to catch it because that was the last bus. So I think that's why the train was running. And we fucking had to run our asses off. A lot of other people just got screwed. I don't know if there was trains still going after that, but according to the schedule, I was like, this shit don't look good. But
they shouldn't put you in that type of position, man. Come on, Tony Khan. We gotta get better. We know Tony watches the channel.
Yeah.
You gotta if you're gonna do New York shows, you gotta do that a little bit better. He be doing that shit for Grand Slam on a Wednesday.
I mean,
yeah, but
like when
also,
they did the 2-hour rampages.
Yeah, but then also I think what it is too is that they need to communicate with, which I don't know how that shit works, but he also needs to communicate with like Metro North and all that stuff because they are open to stuff like that. Because that was the issue that happened with WrestleMania all those years ago, 35, where a bunch of people got stranded, but New Jersey Transit stated that WWE told them the show was ending at 11, and then the show didn't end until 1 a.m. So all those things, because I think by state law, I think there's only like a certain amount of people that could work. So there was a certain agreement, like, all right, we could work with you guys, but you got to let us know what time the show ends. And then by 1 a.m., a lot of people got stranded because of the communication. There was no communication. So I think something like that, like if you do stuff like that, I think to an extent, like if you're willing to work with the venue, that's fine, because like the train line, like the 4 line, they work with Yankee Stadium. So when Yankees have games, there's a certain amount of trains that run to Yankee Stadium that helps, that helps that. So I think when it comes to stuff like that, I think it's pretty minor. Like as long as you guys communicate and there's a certain agreement, I think it could work out. But I do agree, like the shows are fucking long. I mean, again, it's a give or take for me. Like there's pros and cons to it. But yesterday, I guess I was mentally prepared. I was like, yeah, we ain't getting here till after 12. So I'm like, I already mentally prepared. So it wasn't as bad.
That's fair. That's fair. Any thoughts on the first 2 matches, the added 15th match of Kyle Fletcher versus Serpentico, or the 4-way tag team matchup with House of Black winning?
The tag team matchup was fun. The other match, I mean, it was a glorified squash match. So
it was a squash, not a glorified squash. It was definitely a squash.
No, I'm saying like that's why it was just like it is what it was. But the crowd did react to Fletcher really well. when they saw he was coming out. They reacted very well. So they got something with Fletcher there. So they got to take notes.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of building him as like a young up and coming star to watch. But next up on 0 Hour, we had tag team action. Willow Nightingale and Tam Nakano of Stardom versus Stardom's one of the leaders of one of the key members of Oedo Tai, Momo Watanabe, teaming up with Kris Statlander. A preview of the second round of the Owen Hart Memorial Cup, where Statlander and Willow Nightingale will finally go one-on-one after Statlander turned on Willow last month at Double or Nothing. I thought this was one of the stronger matches on 0 Hour. Very competitive, went just over 10 minutes. In the end, though, this was actually a chance for Stardom to get a key win as Tam Nakano tagged in as Willow took Statlander out on the floor, and she hit her bridging arm trap hammerlock German suplex to pick up the win over Watanabe as the two baby faces who faced each other at Flashing Champions in May for the TBS Championship team up here and pick up the win. I thought this was a really good matchup. I gave it 3.5 stars. What did you think about this one, Kris?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I gave it 3 stars. And again, it's so this part of the show I was still able to watch and keep up with because Bleacher Report wasn't messing up on me. Yeah, I always like seeing Willow Nightingale. So.
Absolutely. What about you, Josh? What did you think?
The match was solid. Nothing too crazy, but I had the wrong team winning, so that was the only downside about that. But I mean, overall, it was a good match. The crowd's really into Willow. I actually like, her. Her run has been great with AEW. Starting to realize, people like Willow. So that was, I mean, stuff like that is always fun to see, especially like her with her indie background in the tri-state area. So she had a good reaction. Like I said, the match overall was solid. And then none of the AEW people got pinned, so I guess it works out for Statlander.
Yeah, I thought the right team won because I think Statlander wins on Wednesday, so I thought it was right that Willow and Tam win here.
Yeah, I forgot that she wrestled on Wednesday, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Then you had, speaking of the Owen Hart Memorial Cup Women's Tournament, we had another quarterfinal matchup. I believe, the last quarterfinal matchup, as you had Mariah May dressed in the same attire that Toni Storm wore at the very first Forbidden Door 2 years ago, facing Saraya here. This started off fast with Mariah May coming out with some good offense. Wasn't until Saraya drove her into the turnbuckle that she took advantage of this one. But in the end, with Toni Storm in her corner, it was Mariah May who picked up the win with a bridging roll-up in 8.5 minutes. I thought this was another pretty solid matchup here. I gave this one 3 stars. What did you think about Mariah May moving on post-match? It was the 2 participants in the AEW Women's World Championship match, Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, who both came out to raise her hand as she moves on in the Owen Hart Cup to face Hikaru Shida in the next round. Kris, what do you think?
I thought it was cool. I wasn't expecting to see Saraya for some reason, but I think Mariah May is kind of coming into her own in this role that she's in with Timeless Toni Storm. So I liked it. I was cool with it.
Josh, what do you think live being there?
Right person won. Pretty solid match. That's all I really cared about, to see if Mariah was gonna win. So got what I wanted, so I can't complain too much.
Now, this is the whole reason why I watched the 0 Hour, because I wasn't sure when they were going to air this matchup. And boy, oh boy, did it leave up to my hype, as you had Los Ingobernables de Japón, represented by Yota Tsuji, Hiromu Takahashi, and Teton, versus Mystico and the Lucha Bros, Penta El Zero Mero and Rey Fenix. This was non-stop, fast-paced action high flying extraordinaire. I love the lucha opening with Phoenix and Teton doing spring bullets around each other, double flip in a standoff. The crowd were very appreciative of that. You had Penta and Tsuji as the two powerhouses of their individual teams going at it with one another. Then you had Hiromu and Mystico continuing their rivalry that started in Arena, Mexico. Mystico with a nice little flipping, twisting dive to the outside. Everything breaks down as Rey Fenix hits an assisted splash off of Penta's shoulders for a 2 count on Teton. We get a parade of big knockdowns until Teton does a crazy looking double tornado DDT Rey Fenix into a super kick for a 6-way knockdown as the crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." Mystico does his big dive to the floor. We get the Spike Fear Factor on Takahashi, who rolls out of the ring, and then it's left with Mystico and Teton in the ring, and we get La Mystica from Mystico to pick up the tap out victory over Teton and LIJ. This was just over 12 minutes. This is exactly what I wanted from this one. I gave this one 4 stars. This is like one of the best pre-show matches AEW has ever produced. And to talk about it, not only do I got Professor Kris, not only do I got the Tru Draw Josh, we got New Japan Pro Wrestling's most positive and happiest and prettiest fan, the one and only Sonal is here. Thank you, Sonal,
Hello.
joining us from my fellow UK.
I think I came at the perfect time talking about Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Absolutely. I made sure to ask you when I was like, when we were making sure on the time, you watched the 0 hour just for this matchup, because I was like, you got to watch this matchup. I know you're a big LIJ fan. I gave the match 4 stars. What did you think about the trio's main event of 0 hour?
I mean, I'll speak about this later, but I easily felt that this could have replaced a later 6-man tag match.
Yes.
Which, again, I will air my grievances when we talk about that one. But it seems crazy to me that we've got such a historic match, because obviously we know there's so much beef going on with all sorts of stuff. And you've now got 6 amazingly different wrestlers, some who have never even stepped in the ring together, who we never thought could step in the ring together. Give us something beautiful and you put it on the pre-show.
Gotta love
That's
it.
why Hiromu Takahashi on a pre-show.
Second year in a row, he's on the pre-show.
It was an amazing match. Like, it just, everything worked so well. I was gonna say, I was a bit sad Bushi wasn't there.
No, they did that on purpose. They left Bushi in Japan.
They were like, we'll let another masked man get the pin for once.
Let another masked man tap out and lose for LIJ. But yes, this was so much fun. Professor Kris, what did you think about the trios matchup here?
So this is right when I started having my Bleacher Report issues. If I was thinking, I would have watched it on YouTube, but I watched it on Bleacher Report, and it started cutting off, and all that it came back to was the end of the match. So I missed most of it, and I had a night like this. So.
Oh, it happens to the best of us. Josh, you were there live. What did you think about the Luchadors? As I call them, the Lucha Bloods and Crips of the Lucha Bros and Mystico teaming up together to verse LIJ.
Oh no, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think before the match started, everybody was chanting "Holy shit!" So we had a few people in our area who didn't understand why. So somebody starts explaining it, right? About the beef that's going on, like in Mexico, right, with the wrestling promotions, right? So I decided to say, I was like, oh, just think of it like the Kendrick Lamar concert. He got the Blood and Crips together. I was like, that's what basically TK. Then they understood. They understood that when I said that.
This was the wrestling pop out.
Yeah, and then but the match was great. It was better than I expected. I do agree that this definitely should have been on the main card. There might have been a reason why it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know TK's mindset when it comes to that, but something like this definitely should have been on the main card because it was really fun, really fast paced. You know, always seeing Mystico. I think that was my first time seeing Mystico in person, like wrestling. So it was really fun to see. You know, Penta Phoenix. You know, they always work well together. So I mean, all around was fun. You know, seeing Lij. You know, working. Overall, great match. I can't complain about it.
Maybe TK thought there was too much Lij on the main card, so he was like, let's put the other three in the pre-show to balance it out a bit.
True. He was like, too many Mexicans and too much Lij, so let's put that on the 0 hour. We get the opening video looking at the major matches and how big this night really is. And then we opened up the main card with Long Island's own Maxwell Jacob Freeman, MJF, facing Hechicero. MJF comes out to a huge hero's welcome type pop. He even does a little bit of crowd surfing during his entrance. Hechicero takes him to the mat to start off and very quickly starts working over his arm with a cross arm breaker. Back up, MJF looks to shake his hand, which allows him to kick him in the ribs and does a, yeah, of course I did, shrug. MJF shows off his lucha style ins, his agility with some flipping away. He then does a little like backwards flip and then pokes him in the eye, Roddy Piper style. He does the strut like Ric Flair. He does the swivel of the hips like Rick Rude. He does the twirl around like Macho Man Randy Savage, which Taz does a great line where he's like, he just stole everybody's gimmick in the last 30 seconds. And outside with MJF setting him in a chair. He hits a running boot to the face. Hechicero snaps at his arm across the top rope and really starts working over his arm throughout this one. MJF tries for the heat seeker, but it's blocked as Hechicero does a twisting splash. MJF's able to spin around out of another arm lock and does a power driver for a needed breather. Hechicero goes right back. He does a springboard spinning drop kick before grabbing on another cross arm breaker that's broken up. MJF able to reverse that into the salt of the earth, but after Hechicero rolls him up, he gets into a double arm crank, which looked dangerous as hell and looked like it was hurting the hell out of MJF, who's just coming off a shoulder surgery. MJF's able to get to the ropes. He starts firing off. He bites at the mask of Hechicero as he's in the corner. Hechicero did a good job of playing heel in this matchup, realizing that Max was the babyface. But Max does his usual punches in the corner after ramming his head into the turnbuckle, bites at the head. He then follows up with a Plainview Sunrise, a Panama Sunrise, a shout out to his former tag team partner, and then hits the sheer drop brainbuster for the victory here. This match went less than 10 minutes, but it was good for how long it lasted. I wanted more of it because I thought Hechicero looked good here, and he's always impressing me with his different submissions that I've never seen before. Very good wrestler, coming off a 5-star matchup with Saber Jr. This was just good. I give it 3.5 stars. Josh, what did you think about MJF and Hechicero?
Oh, the match was really good. Both guys worked well together. Watching Hechicero playing into the crowd, I thought that was great because I think he kind of needed that because MJF was doing it so much that once he started doing it, I think it was great to see. The only downside was that it felt short. Right? It was definitely less than 15 minutes.
It was less than 10 minutes. It's 9 minutes, 48 seconds.
See, that's even less than I thought because I was just like, when I saw the time, I was like, oh shit. It's like, it was like right before 8:15, and I was like, all right, cool. But it was a good match, so I liked it.
Sonal, what did you think about the opener here?
I mean, I'm going to be honest, I just woken up, so I was a bit dazy at this point at like 1 a.m. I think, so obviously I'm on here as a New Japan fan, so I guess maybe the impact of like MJF's like coming out and I think maybe was lost on me. I mean, I've loved watching Hechicero's matches recently. I've like picks from different promotions he's been doing on, so it's great. I do agree. Like, I know it was the opening match, but it felt very short. It's almost like, and again, this is from a New Japan perspective, like they could have jiggled the card around a bit, given some matches more time and some didn't need as much. And I think this one could have benefited from being higher on the card and just given a little bit more time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I understand like opening the show with Max, knowing that he's going to get that big reaction in his hometown, but I think this card would have been viewed even better if it had like one of the great matches that we would see later in the show to open the show. I think if you put like a Zack versus Orange Cassidy to open the show, I think that would have made the card overall a little bit better. But Kris, what did you think about Hechicero and MJF here?
Oh, I thought it was cool. It really did feel like it was a match just to kind of get MJF on the card in front of the Long Islanders, and it was short. I don't know if that was by design or not, but I mean, I think, you know, sometimes with these shows, like the audience just needs to know that their hometown guy is going to be on the show, and that's enough to sell the show. So I don't necessarily mind the shortness of it, although I would like to see more Hechicero, but it was what it was. I give it like 3 stars.
Yeah, it was a lackluster build to the matchup as well. So I can understand with Max, he didn't even bring like too much of his game. He didn't try to have like a show stealer or anything like that. He just played the hits, got his big pop, and then get the hell up out of here. We get a rather praise-heavy video package featuring the Young Bucks of how they changed the game and created Forbidden Door. Love the touch of Kenny Omega's face being blurred out, which was great stuff as they mock the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi, calling the Acclaimed scissoring psychopaths, and how Tanahashi is putting New Japan at risk by associating with them. And we get Tanahashi coming out with the Acclaimed. I love Tanahashi doing his air guitar while Max Caster did his rap. And this was probably Max Caster's best rap in like a year. Not saying much, but he mocked President Biden at the debate. Okada's use of the word bitch as he rhymed bitch with bitch multiple times. Okada and Caster started off things, but Okada dropped out of the matchup when Tanahashi tagging in Nicholas Jackson early on instead of doing anything. And I love the smug look on Okada's face. Okada has the best facial expressions in professional wrestling right now. Tanahashi did a middle rope crossbody and did some air guitaring, but god damn, I feel so bad watching Tanahashi wrestle nowadays. It's like his knees are just on like limbs. Right. Like it's like one of those toys where like the string where the arm is hanging off by like a string. That's how I feel his knees are. But we got some nice little offense from the baby faces as they did a scissor me timber, and then all 3 of them did the air guitar. Okada got in a cheap shot on Caster with then you had Nicholas Jackson putting on the headphones and saying, "I can't hear you guys," as Okada mimicked Acclaim doing a dance. Caster got caught in a camel clutch as Matt Jackson ran the ropes and then kissed his brother on the cheek. We got some CM Punk chants at this point, which led to more fans chanting, "He got fired." Love that. Caster knocks Matt off the top rope and hits a crossbody. Okada comes in, but he gets dropped. We finally get the hot tags to both Okada and Tanahashi, and that's where the match really picked up. It seemed like Tanahashi found extra strings to put his knees together whenever he was in the ring with Okada here. You get the Acclaimed and the Bucks fighting on the outside, so it comes down to Okada and Tanahashi. After Tanahashi is distracted by the Young Bucks, he counters a Rainmaker into a small package, but Okada just gets back up, hits the big Rainmaker for the 1-2-3 to pick up the victory for the Elite in just over 13 minutes. Post-match, the Elite tried to further attack Tanahashi in the post-match, but Daddy Ass comes down to make the save, continuing the rivalry between the Acclaimed and the Elite here. I thought this was a fun comedy-style matchup. Nothing much to write home here, but it was fun for what it was. I give it 3.25 stars. Sonal, what did you think?
Finally, it's been, I mean, it's not even been that long, but like to see Tanahashi and Okada back in the ring and to have that dynamic that from eons ago, because they've been friends since Jay White decided to turn heel. So it's nice to see it. And I think even when Okada was like a semi-heel in Chaos, when he was feuding with Tana, this feels like you said, like really fresh, like he's having just a lot of fun being this proper heel character with the Elite. So yeah, Tana is like the interesting issue. I find it interesting though that he got pinned, especially because again, this is for New Japan fans. He has the qualifier for the G1 coming up, so it almost feels like that's like. I mean, again, I don't know the other storylines, like if it affects them if the others are getting pinned, but yeah, just ahead of like such a big tournament that Tanahashi may or may not be in, for him to get pinned is kind of weird, but I will happily take my Okada Tanahashi crumbs in any way I can.
Yes, I love that throwback to the greatest rivalry in New Japan history. So that this was for us, the New Japan fans here. Kris, what did you think about this 6-man?
It was. I wasn't really feeling it that much. I give it probably about 2 stars. It wasn't horrible. It's just some of the tropes I like. I don't understand why Daddy Ass is like being the tough guy at the end, but you know, it is what it is. It was in the caster rap. I kind of agree with you. I think maybe this was a better rap, but I do think he needs to I don't know. He hasn't been on it lately with the rap. So it was, like I said, it was fine. The right team won. I didn't understand Tanahashi eating the pin either, but you know, what are you gonna do?
True. Josh, what did you think about this 6-man here?
The match was fine. Nothing too crazy, nothing over the top. The Bucks and Okada were doing a good job getting some heat from the Long Island crowd. That was great. They're doing a bunch of shit. They even got I know when they were chanting CM Punk, those chants got compressed by everybody just booing. And then everyone started chanting he got fired. Like it went from that to everyone chanting he got fired. And then but yeah, that's pretty much what it was. That's how I felt about the match. It was okay, but you know, I had the other team winning because I felt like, hey, the Elite's probably gonna win Blood and Guts. But yeah, match was all right.
I kind of feel though, if like for me personally, if Tanahashi wasn't in it, I probably just wouldn't have cared that much. Just like from my standpoint, it was like, oh, I get to see Tanahashi and Okada back together. But if he wasn't there, it's almost like it's just like I think somebody said it didn't have to be on the main card of this show. Right. Even though
if Daddy Ass was on the card, I would have been like, wow.
I like the guy that he's Daddy Ass is the final boss of it.
It's just weird, man, dog. Yeah, to me it's just weird because it's just I don't know, man. Like I get it, I get like they want to treat him like a legend, and you know AEW tends to do stuff like this with their legends, but it's like. He's not a former world champion, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think there's a way you could treat him with reverence without this kind of thing. You know, like you don't have to have him against guys that you have in a main event story. You could have him do that crap against, you know, one of the mid carders or something.
Yeah, I would never forgive them for that Daddy Ass versus Jay White match earlier this year, which is still one of the worst matches of the year.
I'm wearing my Jay White shirt. Please do not mention that. I was warning that he was on the card. I was like, where is he?
That was one of the worst matches. Well, he can't be on the show because he lost that loser. Loser leaves New Japan. It's a New Japan show.
He said, yeah.
Okay, let me dream, SP3. Okay,
can't do it. Can't do it. Eddie Kingston has to write off on it. And no, big man dogs, Punk did not quit. He got fired. I know you're a Punk fan, but sorry.
You know, like CM Punk is fooling you, and for somebody who's a CM Punk fan like myself, I'm not being fooled by Phil. So big man dogs, but cut it out. He got fired. Just let it go. He got fired, and he's fine. You know, he's having he's
good.
He's failing upward. I mean, he did get fired though. You can't not call a thing. And I do hate that about wrestling. It almost reminds me of politics, my other line of work. It's like, let's not bullshit. The guy got fired because he deserved to be fired. Maybe he was trying to get fired, but he got fired.
Yeah, you could say he got fired on purpose, but you can't say he quit. But like I said before, I think that these first two matches, I think if they were matches 2 and 3, I think they would be more palatable. And if they made this third match the opener, the card would have looked so much better, because the third match was the Owen Hart men's tournament quarterfinal matchup. You had the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, one-on-one with the Rampage Dragon, Shingo Takagi. And boy, oh boy, this was great. Wrestling and great commentary by the one and only Nigel McGuinness. Nigel McGuinness and his hatred of Danielson is one of a kind. It's one of a kind. He was already on Danielson in the opening minutes of this matchup, like you knew he would be. Danielson went after the leg early, but that was broken up in the ropes as so Danielson takes him down, does a Mexican surfboard for a few. He really dominated the opening few minutes of the matchup until they went to the outside, where Takagi hits a big spinning neck breaker on the floor, and Danielson sells it because he's got all the tape on the neck. He has compression scars from doing compression. Really sold the fact that he has a injured neck after the Tiger Driver against Will Ospreay at AEW Dynasty. And Danielson's selling was absolutely exceptional in this matchup. Like, there was times where I was like, man, he shouldn't be doing this. He should just give up right now. Thankfully, he gets back into the ring to break the count. Takagi drops a big knee on the back of his head. Danielson fights back. They trade shots until Takagi hits a big pumping bomber. He hits a big superplex off the top rope, which Danielson sells great as well. They do a double knockdown where the crowd really got into things. Danielson does a triangle choke, but Takagi gets out of it, and I think he's trying to go for the Death Valley Driver, but he turns it into like a power slam. Back up, he does the big superplex and a sliding lariat for a 2 count. Made in Japan is broken up as Danielson misses a charge in the corner, and then he finally does hit Made in Japan, and he hit this perfectly because I was scared he was going to drop him on his neck. McGuinness was left in speechless at that point as Danielson kicked out of Made in Japan. Danielson barely gets up to his feet as Takagi hits a running shot to the back of the head. Another sliding lariat is loaded up, but Danielson reverses that into a Fujiwara armbar. That switched into the label lock as he's just going through submission after submission. But Takagi gets in. He gets a reverse fisherman suplex on Takagi, and then Danielson gets the running knee, but Takagi kicks out. You can see the shock on Danielson's face. Tingo was just on his A game in this matchup. Danielson starts stomping away at the head. He then transitions into a triangle choke, but Takagi tries to power up again, but Danielson just keeps hitting him with the hammer and anvil elbows until he gets him down. He gets into a disarmor type move. Takagi doesn't even tap out. He gets the verbal submission for the referee stoppage. This match going nearly 20 minutes. This was excellent matchup here. One of the best matches of the entire night. I gave it 4.5 stars. These two guys showed the F out. And now Danielson, with his broken down neck, has to face Pac on Wednesday in Chicago. He goes from Shingo to Pac with his neck on like the same strings that I talked about with Tanahashi. This was absolutely tremendous stuff. Kris, what you thought about Shingo versus Danielson?
Oh, I loved it, man. But I didn't love how it kept cutting out on me from Bleacher Report. I hope that any of y'all who saw this match didn't have the issues that I saw, but I saw the parts of the match that I needed to see. I give it about a 4.5 also. Brian Danielson, excuse, I called him by his slave name, my bad.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know me, I was gonna mention it.
But he Danielson is at home doing this kind of stuff. Like you can tell that he is just a guy who wants to be there to wrestle. He's not there for like storylines, and I'm not gonna say he's not there for money, because he is, but it's like that's like if he could be in a place where he makes the money that he makes in AEW, and all that's required of him is to put on like matches where he could tell stories, that's what he's going to do. And this was a fantastic match, man. Not my match of the night, but I did like it a lot.
So now what you thought about Shingo and Danielson?
It was my
Dragon versus Dragon.
It was my match of the night. I really loved it. I want to see it again. I want to see it again in Japan. I feel like they would go crazy for that in like, I don't know, in Osaka Joe Hall, or like if they want to do Tokyo Dome. I don't know, if they want to do it, I'll take it. But I loved, and this is like an odd thing, Shingo playing the heel. Mm-hmm. Something that like it wasn't a major heel vibes, but it was obviously he's always been a babyface with Los Ingobernables de Japón. So hey, it was the little things he was doing, and I was like, I'm not saying, oh, turn Shingo heel and move him to House Torture, but I'm saying that it's nice to see him try a different character, but still like balance that with the amazing wrestling. Because on one side you've got submission skills of Bryan Danielson, and then Shingo, he's got his speed, strength, and athleticism. And I was really like on the fence, because I was like, technically Danielson should win, but Shingo made me think he was going to win at points, which I think is always great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this was like Shingo's like real first kind of like matchup on the main card for Forbidden Door. So there's a couple of fans that never seen him in this light, and now they see he's one of the best in the world. Like he can move for move. He was on the offensive for most of this matchup. Mm-hmm. And Danielson's always great with this like physically intense matchup, and if he can sell the crap out of any injury, he's just great at it. And he was great with selling the neck. But Shingo, with all his offense, he has one of the best movesets in the game.
He's just so sleek with whatever he does. It's just like he works well with everyone. I think we discussed this about other people. Shingo's another guy that if you can't have a good match with Shingo, you just it's very much a you problem. You're like it's not you're not gonna have a good match with anyone.
Yes. We got Josh. What did you think about this one?
It was definitely one of my favorite matches of the night. It really the whole thing, because like sometimes there's certain matches that have like slow starts. This one kind of needed it, and then once it started picking up, I mean, it was worth it. Especially I think after the kick out, I think was it to the running knee after the kick out, I was like, all right, this is going to the next gear. And I was like, oh, you see, this is what you need. So it was great. I expected a great match. So, they delivered. So, fun matchup. My first time watching Shingo's single match. So that was fun as well.
Very nice. Very nice. We got Alex Powell getting geared up for the G1, saying Shingo's going to be MVP in his block. It's either him or Ishii most years. We know as New Japan fans and all, they are usually the MVPs of the G1. And Big Man wants
Ishii is going to be in it this year.
Yes, I don't know. Maybe they feel like Ishii's body can't take another G1. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in the qualifying tournament.
But Tanahashi can.
Yeah, Tanahashi can. He should not be in the G1. He should not be in the G1. Big Man Dog saying if this was 4.5, then I feel the rematch could be a classic. I agree with Sonal. Put that in. They announced later in the show. We'll get into that. They have a big show on January 5th with all the promotions in the Tokyo Dome. Give me the rematch there, because Danielson had a 4.5-star matchup with Okada last year at Forbidden Door, and had a 5-star matchup with Okada in the Tokyo Dome. So, hey, I like the math if that pans out with Shingo here. We get a recap of one of the best builds to this pay-per-view, Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. The bigger story is the battle over Mariah May, as both of them won her. And Mina Shirakawa and this dance is one of my favorite entrances in the game today. It's like she came out of a Britney Spears video with the whole dance routine. Then you get Timeless Toni Storm, who has a special pay-per-view entrance as she is the Statue of Liberty. We get America the Beautiful as she comes out. And we get also Mariah May in the middle of this, giving both women flowers, a Stardom tradition before big title matches. May refuses to pick side, though, before the matchup, kind of standing at ringside, circling. The two ladies circle each other. Shirakawa starts dancing in the middle of the matchup, and she gets hip attacked right to the face for her efforts. She works over the knee of Timeless Toni Storm, the bigger competitor in this one. Doesn't stop Toni from hitting a nice little fisherman suplex with the tippy toes. Love the way she does that now. There's a running hip attack to Shirakawa onto the floor, but another one only hits the steps. Shirakawa uses the breather to hit a big dive off the top rope onto both Timeless Toni and Luther, only for Storm to catch her back inside the ring with a big choke bomb. Storm misses a charge, though, and Shirakawa grabs her bad leg and puts on a figure 4 deathlock. They sit up and they slap at each other until Storm is able to escape. Back up, they slug it out with Shirakawa getting the better of her. They make their way to the top rope where Shirakawa hits a great-looking super implant DDT for a near fall. She then hits an implant DDT for another near fall. Shirakawa goes for the glamorous driver, but Storm is able to break out of it, does a release German suplex. She goes for another hip attack and only gets a 2, and then Shirakawa hits her with a glamorous driver for a near fall. Storm gets a quick little roll up. She then hits a German suplex and then a Storm 0 for the 1-2-3. This one going 11 and a half minutes. I thought this was a very good to great matchup. These two women had really good chemistry with one another. I gave the match 4 stars, but the post match was even better. Yeah. You have Mariah May. Mariah May basically brings the two women together. They look at each other. Shirakawa offers a handshake. They shake hands, but Mariah doesn't want it to stop there. She actually tells them to hug each other. They hug each other, and then Mariah does the slow motion, bringing them close together, bringing them in for a 3-way kiss. Thus, the ending of the greatest love triangle in professional wrestling history. We've had plenty of love triangles in wrestling. This is the best one. Love. I love love. I was like Nigel McGuinness at ringside, who was crying. He had actual tears in his eyes for this emotional moment. 4 stars, but a 5-star post-match. This was wonderful. What did you think being there live for Shirakawa and Storm, Josh?
The match was great. It was better than I expected. Even though I'm familiar with both of their work, so I mean, it was great because it was more to me. It was more of a story angle than anything. So I think to me the match was just a bonus. Like if it's great, it's a bonus for me. So I mean overall it was great to see. That ending angle though, it was hilarious because everyone's like started cheering, and I was like, man, this is like the loudest they've cheered for anything tonight, and it was like mad funny. And then I think when they showed Nigel, everybody started laughing like in my section when they showed them laughing. I mean, when they showed them crying, everyone was laughing.
It was great. It was great stuff. Kris, what did you think about the Mina and Toni?
Oh, I loved it, man. I thought it was funny. I don't know if y'all saw the press conference. Shirakawa did the dance out there, and then
Toni tried to do it. Toni did not know the moves.
Right. And then she says some comment about her immaculate ample breasts or something like that. I forgot what it was, but I couldn't stop laughing. The match was great, man. It was great. I give it about a 4 stars as well. And it does get my, like, what I love about this match, it gets my wills. I think the AEW women's division is starting to, like, really have a good foundation with, you know, who comes back later, and with Mercedes. You know, I'm already envisioning feuds with Toni Storm and those ladies. So I loved it. I love this match.
Sonal, I know you're not too familiar with the ongoing story that's going on with Mariah May and Timeless Toni Storm, but you are familiar with Mina Shirakawa from STARDOM. What did you think about this one?
You know that a match is good when you go into it knowing nothing about the storyline, but you are just as invested as everybody in the crowd. They did an amazing thing, like, with the package, and then commentary really helped at this point. And I was so invested because I know when I did my review, I compared it, because normally you have two male wrestlers fighting over a female wrestler. And I loved this idea that it's just women fighting over women. It's the best thing. Like, and at the end, like, all of them coming together, I'm like, this is storytelling, because I've obviously heard there's been criticisms of the women's division. And I was like, well, if this is the sort of thing, you have amazing matches, but with a level of storytelling that goes deeper than just what you're putting, things that transcend companies and years. And I think this was, again, and one of my favorite matches of the night, just because it combined amazing wrestling, but also amazing storytelling.
Yeah. And I didn't even think of that as well. Big Man Dogs mentioning they ended off Pride Month with a bang. So they told a complete story there. I love it. I love the story, and it's still ongoing because Mariah May is in the Owen Hart Cup, and if she wins, she gets the shot at Timeless Toni Storm at All In for the AEW Women's World Champion. And I've said it once, I will say it a million times. It's the best long-form story AEW has ever done with the women's division, and something else I've been saying pretty much since after All Out last year. The AEW women's division is just getting better and better month after month, and it is the current best women's division in North America. And that's a long way from what it was a year ago. A year ago, it was still having issues, but we've come a long way. And this is the third of 4 matches on this card. So that tells you the progression of the AEW women's division. We got also in the chat, Chris says, I love girls kissing girls. I mean, very simple comment, but
I knew that comment was coming. I feel like the internet was probably full of them last night.
Right, I'm sure it was, yeah.
You will be seeing this all over your social media, folks. But next up, you had the, like Sonal said, more story-driven matchup with Mina and Toni. Here was for us sickos who love the grabs. Saber Jr. one-on-one with OC Orange Cassidy, and they went right technical right from the start. But I love the story of Zach trying to get Orange to play his usual Orange games, but Orange playing the Zack Saber technical techers game. I love that, where Orange is getting him down on the ground. He gets his leg strap, and Zach's telling him to put his hands in his pocket, and all OC does is just wrap him up into a Zack Saber-like submission, which was great stuff. They exchange submissions on the ground. We get Saber Jr., who gets the advantage, and he starts doing his own slow kicks to Cassidy. Cassidy takes him down by the knee and puts him down for a chain, twisting up his legs. He then hits a ridiculous-looking freaking diving DDT, which Zach sold like death for a rather close near fall. They start exchanging submissions on the ground. Zach gets him in the weirdest submission that I'm probably going to have to do to one of my kids one day, where he wraps his legs around his neck and then wraps his legs around Orange's neck, which was great stuff. The arm double crank, and I love that you could tell Orange Cassidy did his homework, because he went after the bad leg of Zach that has been an issue for him for the last couple of months since his matchup with Bryan Danielson. We get a Texas Cloverleaf, but Zach had basically did the wickedest freaking finger crank that I think I've ever seen, where you heard the crack of his fingers when he did that to OC, and OC wasn't able to get his fingers clapped on the Texas Cloverleaf. He busts out a beach break for a near fall. Back up, we get the orange punch, but it basically has no effect on Zach, as Zach is able to stand up on his feet. We get an awesome exchange of near falls as we get European clutch into O'Connor roll, European clutch again into OC doing a O'Connor roll with his hands in his pocket. He does the European clutch to Zach. Zach reverses that into a double armbar, and then the finish is like, it was like a Rings of Saturn with his legs as he did a heel hook at the same time, and OC has no choice but to give up. This was 16 and a half minutes of technical wrestling brilliance from both men, not just Zach, who is by far the best technical wrestler in the game. Orange Cassidy proved to everybody he can play the techers as good as anybody else. This was one of my other favorite matches of the night. I give this one 4.5 stars because the last couple of minutes was absolutely incredible between these two guys. The European clutch, O'Connor roll exchanges into the submissions, just brilliance. Chris, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I give it 4 stars. I think the right guy won. And I did like the technical aspect of it. I liked what the Orange Cassidy in the match as well. I thought how long is Zack Saber Jr. there for?
What do you mean?
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, he's a New Japan guy. He's New Japan.
Okay, cool. So it was cool. It was fine. I thought that the right person won.
Sonal, what did you think of ZSJ versus OC?
Loved it. Maybe it's just because I just loved that. Like, the build up to this was really good as well. Like, there's that line, I think, I can't remember word for word, but Zach was like, if you think, like, don't think Orange Cassidy is one of the best wrestlers, then you're an idiot. Basically, like, implying that, like, yeah, Orange Cassidy has this persona, but actually at the core of it, he's a very good wrestler. And, like, Zach wants to bring it out of him. It's similar, like, when Zach has matches, like, in Japan, and when the very few people he ever prayed, you know, like Sanada and that, and it's when it happens, it's massive. So you know that unlike many people, Zach didn't go into this with like any cockiness. He knew who he was facing. And I love that moment when obviously Zach was doing the lazy kicks and then went into his massive PK. Like, it was just a really good match of dynamics. And you know what? Orange never challenged for the TV title, did he?
No.
I would have loved to have seen them in that 15-minute time limit television championship match.
Facts. I mean, we got ZSJ. He challenged for the international title last year. That's what created this little grudge match here. But I did not expect it to be that good. I thought it would be a great matchup, but I thought it was even better than what I expected. Josh, you were there live. What did you think of this one?
Same thing. I thought the match would be good. I didn't know it was going to be this good because, again, wrestling in 2024 means something different for somebody like Zack Sabre Jr.'s style of wrestling. It's just something that you don't see a lot of. It kind of reminded me of the match that I saw with him with Jonathan Gresham in Final Battle. That's what that kind of reminded me of. But this one had different stuff. It had different antics because of OC's character. So that's what added to the match, in my opinion. Like, OC was still doing like certain things that he does with his gimmick and his character. So to me, that elevated the match as well. And then Zach, what I like about Zach, he reminds me of Gunther in a way of he doesn't really have a finisher. Like, he does like different stuff to win the match. And I think for someone like that, it works so well because, again, he's like, his style is just, you don't see a lot of it. So I think that's why for somebody like him, it works out because you don't see a lot of it. And I think when I was in the crowd watching it, I think there was a lot of people watching it, and it kind of gave me like that New Japan feel because the crowd, right? With the New Japan crowds, they're not going to be over the top because they're so focused on watching the product. And I felt like that's what everyone was doing yesterday, because when we were watching it, everyone around us, we were just like, man, like, this guy is so damn good. Like, what is he doing? Like, everyone was like kind of like invested in that aspect. Again, you know, the way I view wrestling, you know, you don't always need to have the overly loud crowds for a match to be good. Sometimes people just want to watch and be invested. And I felt like this was a match that was like that.
Yeah, this matchup really made me be like, yeah, Zach is ready to, at least on as far as like New Japan's top gaijin coming over and having great matches with AEW talent, that Will Ospreay had kind of filled that void for the last 2 years. Zach in this matchup proved to me he's ready to take that role. He can come into AEW at any point, and I want him to have a big match at All In. If Dragon doesn't make it to win the Owen, and you don't have Nigel back, give me Zach versus Bryan again in Wembley Stadium. I would love that. He already teased it on
that as well.
Yeah,
I'd be like, because I mean, you're never going to see New Japan going to Wembley, not anytime soon. So just for him to get because when Ospreay had it, it was such a huge moment for him. Though I don't think Zach will go and get a tattoo of it. But do you know what I mean? It'll be a massive thing for him.
Facts. We get a recap of the Learning Tree versus Samoa Joe and company. Joe and company are sick of Chris Jericho and want to fight, with Jericho bringing in Jeff Cobb to replace the injured Brian Keith. And we have the NJPW World Television Champion teaming up with the Learning Tree here to versus Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata. I like with the entrance that they gave Hook the final entrance, and you had Joe and Shibata, the veterans, kind of clear the lane and following Hook to the ring. It kind of was a very much like a visual putting over of Hook, and that's what the goal of this entire matchup really was in the end. Jericho is sure the fans don't really want him to retire, as they chant, "Please retire," before the opening bell of this matchup. We get him and Shibata going at it with Shibata no-selling his chops and then firing it off on Jericho. Big Bill comes in as we get chopping ensues with him as well. We get the big Hoss showdown that everybody wanted out of this one, with Joe and Cobb going at it. Cobb overpowering Joe with a big spine buster. Jericho comes in. He does his little heel shenanigans, but it really comes down to Jericho and Hook. We get three-way chokes by the baby faces on the heels. You even get Joe outside giving the Kakina clutch to Cobb, as Shibata has the choke on Big Bill. And you get Hook basically doing the Judas effect better than the originator, Chris Jericho, at the end, as he gets the 1-2-3 with Jericho's own move. This match, though, went way too long. It went 13 and a half minutes. I was like, how did MJF get less time than this matchup? MJF and Hechicero could have had a really good matchup if they got this time instead of this matchup getting 13 and a half, nearly 14 minutes. This is ridiculous. I give the match 2.5 stars. This was the worst match. This was the worst match on the main show, and definitely the match I say you didn't even need to have on the main card. Chris?
Well, like Jericho said at the beginning of the match, he's the hometown guy, right? He's like, I thought that was funny, at least. This match was way too fucking long. And unfortunately, this wasn't one of the matches that cut out on me. This stayed the whole time. I think if it's to get Hook over, I still don't know the end game of this Jericho crap. I don't know what it's gonna do for Big Bill or for Keith. I just don't know. I guess they like doing it. I wasn't, especially the length of it. It just went on way too long.
It was rather ridiculous, the length of this matchup. Josh, you were there live. How was the crowd reaction for this one, and what did you think?
A lot of people went to concessions, which is true.
Figure that. That happened at Revolution. I think it happened at Dynasty. Every show, he has the worst match on the card.
Yeah, so you know what's crazy though? Like this match was probably like the best one out of those three. It's not saying much. But it was, I mean, it is what it was. Like I wasn't expecting nothing crazy. But the crowd, they seemed to like the Jericho gimmick. Everyone was chanting, "Please retire." And I remember like when they did it a few times, somebody got out of their seat and they yelled out, "But he's the learning tree." And everyone started laughing. Every time Jericho waved, everyone was like waving back. So there's people who like the gimmick. I mean, I enjoy it. Do I think sometimes it's like overly done? Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. When it comes to it, the right person did win. I like the fact that Hook did the move. I do agree with that though too. That Hook did the move better. And when he did, I was like, oh shit! I was like, did he just do the Judas effect? And then he won with the move too. But again, the right person won. And it's just like I do agree with Kris. I'm like, what's the angle when it comes to all of this? But then also, what's gonna be the bigger picture for Hook? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. He's in a weird spot because it's like, yeah, I get like you're gonna try to put him over, but again, like this guy has been in development. It has nothing to do with him. It's just the way he's being booked, and I think he could do so much better. Which I'm not asking for like a world title run or anything, but he should be doing more at this point. That it's like if you want to keep the guy, right? You don't want him to go to somewhere like NXT, then you got to do something significant.
Sonal, I know you were not pleased with seeing this matchup and seeing Jeff Cobb in it. So what did you think?
As soon as it got announced, I was like, right, I'm going to use it to rest my eyes. Because you're going to tell me that for the past like 2 months, Jeff Cobb has been doing post-match comments in New Japan, calling out, well, not 2 months, but since he won the title, he's been calling out people in AEW like, oh, there's a forbidden door being open. Who's going to face me? And then they put him in a 6-man tag match with the title not on the line and have him team with Chris Jericho. Make it make sense. Justice for Jeff.
It makes sense in the fact that Jeff Cobb was a hired assassin for the Inner Circle in 2020. That's the only way it makes sense.
Yeah, but we're now in 2024. He's a member of the Empire. He's in New Japan. He's the television champion. He's one of the most dominating Gaikokujins in New Japan. And you put him in a 6-man tag match. Like, just I feel so bad for Jeff Cobb because, like, yeah, it's great. We got him versus Joe. Why could that easily not have been a singles match for the title? Or a special singles match if you don't want to put the title on the line? Like, I think it wouldn't have mattered, but it's just because Cobb has obviously been hyping this up and wanting a match for a long time, and it just feels like AEW, because I assume it was their booking, sort of disregarded the storytelling going on in New Japan.
Yeah, that is true. That sucks. And like I've said it once, I'll say it again. I'm a fan of the Learning Tree. I think he's a good weekly character. I love sarcasm and the overbearingness of it all, but just don't give him pay-per-view matches. Just make him a weekly TV character. I think that's working. Him wrestling is what's hurting it.
I agree. That's where I think I'm at with it. Like, it's funny when it comes to that stuff, but I'm like, I don't need to see a Jericho match. Like, I'm at the point, I'm like, we don't need to see one anymore.
This should have been swapped for the Los Ingobernables de Japón match in the pre-show.
1000%, because that match is actually the Forbidden Door. That is like something that was forbidden before, and now it's not anymore.
It's not Forbidden Door. It's not Forbidden Door because you've got Jeff Cobb from New Japan and Shibata, who's AEW but was New Japan, but technically that still doesn't count because he's not New Japan anymore.
Nope. They won't let him wrestle there. But We were back to quality, though, with the next matchup, as it was the TNT Championship ladder match. And I knew with the guys involved in this matchup that it would be good. You had Konosuke Takeshita, you had Dante Martin, Mark Briscoe, El Phantasmo, Lio Rush, and of course, the scapegoat, Jack Perry, who came out with his goat mask. And I knew it'd be, crazy car crash action. But holy shit. What the hell was Mark Briscoe on in this matchup? Mark Briscoe went ham in this matchup. He pulls out a table and he sets it up on one leg. He then puts Takeshita on it and puts another ladder on him. Then he does a running flip dive off a chair over the top rope onto Takeshita, almost killing Takeshita. Then this man sets up a ladder on the apron and does a full-on dive over the top rope onto Jack Perry. He comes up like 6 inches short and it still hits Jack Perry, but he doesn't go through the table. Konosuke Takeshita was the MVP of this matchup because the crowd absolutely loved him. Every time he would climb up the ladder and look like he was getting close to the championship, they were cheering very loudly. You had the continuation of the story that started off on Collision with Lio Rush and Dante Martin reigniting a rivalry partnership with one another. El Phantasmo was really good with his springboards onto the ladder, all his selling of the big moves. But man, the spot of the whole night was him and Takeshita, as Takeshita did a freaking blue thunder bomb off the apron through 2 tables, destroying ELP. Takeshita looked like he was on his way to getting the championship to a loud ovation from the Long Island crowd. The Long Island crowd wanted Takeshita to win this one. And I love the story of the matchup early on was everybody was like, fuck Jack Perry. We wanted to beat up Jack Perry, get him out the way. But Jack Perry just avoided a lot of different moves throughout this one. And I love his looking into the camera because he has so much charisma when he looks into the camera with his facial expressions. Mark Briscoe, he takes Takeshita out of this one. The crowd is still into seeing Mark Briscoe win this one, but he's eventually taken out by the scapegoat who hits him with the ladder, then hits him with the chair a few times, and then walks over the dead body of Mark Briscoe to go climb up the ladder and retrieve the TNT championship to become the new champion. This was one of the better ladder matches I think AEW has done in a while. This was absolutely wild, absolutely insane. And man, I'm going to remember all the Mark Briscoe spots and the Takeshita Blue Thunder Bomb off the apron for a very, very long time. I gave this match 4.5 stars. This was, like I said, one of the best ladder matches AEW's done in quite some time. So, Sonal, what did you give this one?
House of Torture won. Everyone's like, there's no House of Torture. There is House of Torture. House of Torture won a major match.
House of Torture meets the Elite, yes.
Yeah.
The Elite Torture.
I like that. I really enjoyed the match. It was nice to see, obviously, some of the guys that I really like Takeshita. I joked that, because they mentioned it, obviously, all the Tongans have left him. I find it hilarious that after that, ELP went crazy. He had the Despy Invitational. Now he's in a ladders match. And I remember when I spoke to ELP and Hechicero, they were talking about ladders, and Hechicero was like, no ladders, no ladders. Now he's gone. ELP's like, give me the ladders.
And I love that ELP now does the broken heart instead of the hearts that he would do with Hechicero. He does the broken heart during his entrance.
Yeah, and so that was nice to see. And yeah, like you said, ladder matches don't always work, but this was one of the better ones because all of the guys in the match were very different characters. And I think it felt more authentic because, yes, there were some spots where somebody could have won the belt, but they chose to dive off. But some companies, not going to mention company, but when it looks like they're going for something off a ladder and they're so close, but it gets ruined, and you're like, you literally could have.
Yeah, and they're stalling for 2 minutes or whatever. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this felt authentic. It felt like, obviously, Briscoe, him not getting the belt and him jumping off, that makes sense for his character. Do you know what I mean? So it felt very authentic for a ladder match.
Yeah, that's what I really enjoyed this one. Even Dante Martin, he had me scared when he did the spot where he was selling his leg during the matchup. I was like, yo, they're getting me on this one. I'm invested. Chris, what did you think?
Yeah, I love this match. I even like the interaction between Dante Martin and Lio Rush because they've got like backstory. I think Lio Rush was doing like a mentorship thing with him. It's good seeing Lio Rush in AEW. You know, I thought like the way he left was kind of like childish on all the sides, you know, but it was good seeing him. And I really like the way the crowd, and I guess Josh could tell us more about this, but it did seem like they were really getting into Takeshita, and even Briscoe for a second. It seemed like he was getting into it, and I don't necessarily like something positive has to come out of this whole Jack Perry CM Punk thing. I'm still not 100% sold on Jack Perry. I do agree with you, Sid, that his facial expressions are good. I think he's good at that. They're announcing him from Los Angeles, California now instead of Valley Village, which is something I noticed. I like the like little like stories within the story in this match. And let's see what Jack Perry can do with the TNT title.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Good note by Frantic World, hoping that Lio Rush gets better. He was injured during the matchup, according to an upcoming booking that he was supposed to have. He's been pulled from the show. So thoughts and prayers to Lio Rush. Hopefully he could come back soon because he's been like very much featured on Collision as of late with the whole story and the build up to this matchup with Dante Martin. And also a good note by Alex Powell, who brings up that Takeshita and ELP are facing each other in the B block of the G1, and now they have a big story to that after that crazy Blue Thunder bomb spot. That was the spot of the night for me. Like that was just insane how the table just exploded and everything. Josh, what did you think about this one? And like Chris said, what did you think about the reaction for Takeshita?
Oh, the crowd was great. The crowd was definitely behind Takeshita. If it was a different situation, different circumstances, I think he was the best option to take the title. But, you know, the current storyline that they're going with when it comes to Elite, I already knew Jack was going to win. And I was like one of the few people who actually clapped. It was like 4 other people who clapped. Everyone was like pissed off. So that was great to see too. Because I'm like, hey, it's working. If people are pissed off, I'm like, it's working. Because that's the whole point of it. And then he had that spot with Mark when he did I think it was like the diving elbow and the table didn't break. We were all laughing too because I was like, yo, the fuck the table didn't break from that spot, like from that high up. And then he did that other spot too with the ladder. He put the ladder over this guy, Kosuke. Like, I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, they got the right person, someone like him, because he has experience within these kind of matches. A lot of them didn't. So it made sense for someone like Mark to be in this kind of match because you always, when you do matches like this, at least for me, like if you do ladder matches and stuff like this, you always need that one person who's done it to elevate that match. So it ended up working out. But yeah, right person won in my opinion. And hopefully, I mean, you know, you said that Lio Rush got injured. Yeah, he did take a few nasty bumps, so I could see that being the thing too. So, hopefully he's not too serious, but it's also been great. Like I agree, it's been great to see him back in some kind of capacity with AEW. I think it's more of like a per date kind of thing, which is like I think that's what he wanted in the first place. So. It's been good to see him, and hopefully everything works out. But overall, fun matchup.
He changes his hair every time I see him. I saw him one week, he had the dreads. Another week, he had like the mini fro, and then he had the cornrows on this show. So love it. Next up, speaking of crowd reactions, this is one that we're going to talk about the crowd reaction too. it was time for the winner-take-all title-for-title matchup. Stephanie Vaquer, the NJPW Strong Women's Champion, defending against TBS Champion and also defending Mercedes Moné. Stephanie Vaquer, just the entrance with her coming out with 3 titles, just for the personification of aura. And throughout this matchup, I think she really won over this Long Island crowd. Immediately at the start of the matchup, she hits a big headbutt to start things off. They start trading off roll-ups. We get some springboard wrist drags with Stephanie Vaquer doing a double jump one, which was really nice. You get Mercedes with the Meteora for a 2 count. Vaquer is right back up with a shot of her own, but Moné goes for the 3 amigos, but Vaquer is able to counter the 3rd one. She starts in on the leg, ties Mercedes' legs around, ties her legs around Moné's head. It starts ramming her into the canvas, and at that point, the crowd just woke up and came alive. And they turned on Mercedes Moné. It was like it took 5 minutes of this matchup for the crowd to realize, oh, Mercedes Moné's from Boston.
That's what I was gonna say.
Moné fights up again and knocks her into the corner for the running knees. At that point, we hear some loud boos from Mercedes anytime she's on offense. We get the attempt for the money maker, but that's reversed into a DDT from Vaquer. Another shot from Moné leads them both down for a double down, and then they both tried to do a double kip up, but Vaquer does it smooth. Mercedes is selling her back and not able to really do the kip up. Vaquer grabs a crossface, but Moné reverses that into the bank statement. That is broken up, and the crowd at this point is loudly cheering Vaquer. We get some knees to the ribs, but that put Mercedes down. We get a loud "fuck the Celtics" chant at this point as Moné goes up and only to dive into a raised knees from Vaquer. Vaquer hits some brutal dragon screw leg whips, and the crowd is moving on to "fuck the Red Sox" chant. Moné goes for her crossface, but it's countered into a crossface of Stephanie, but Moné's able to reverse that. It looks like a backslide, but she transitions into the moneymaker, hits the moneymaker, and then goes right into the bank statement crossface, and Stephanie Vaquer is forced to tap out. This one was really good action throughout, but I think the bigger story was the crowd. I really like the work from both women here, so I gave the match 4 stars, but the crowd, man, they just chose Vaquer. It was like a combination of the crowd realizing that Mercedes was from Boston, and I think it was because Stephanie Vaquer really felt like she was the better wrestler in this matchup. She was just so smooth, so good in everything she was doing, but then they just put the cherry on top of this whole thing, just based off the reaction and Mercedes booing, and then her raising up both titles, gets the loud boos from the Long Island crowd, but they got the cheers because Mercedes is celebrating, and then the music of former AEW Women's World Champion Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, hits, and she returns to a thunderous ovation from this New York crowd. The roof came off for Dr. Britt Baker as she comes on the stage. She gets the big fireworks, the big heroes welcome, and she stares down with Mercedes. She doesn't go to the ring, but she stares down from the ramp as Mercedes has finally been upstaged by someone. The whole story of Mercedes versus Willow Nightingale heading into Double or Nothing was Mercedes kept interrupting and stealing the spotlight from Willow. So I like the story overall of the Mercedes character, as now she has someone who's just as cocky as her stealing her spotlight here. I thought this was a tremendous return for Dr. Baker DMD, and it sets up a huge women's matchup, women's TBS championship matchup for All in London, and that is the right stage for one of the first female star that AEW built versus the newest female star that has come into AEW in Mercedes Moné. So really great stuff there. So now, what did you think about Mercedes versus Vaquer and the return of Dr. Britt Baker, DMD?
So I'm going to be honest here. So I have fallen in love with Stephanie. Like, since she has, like, I never really watched CMLL, so I didn't really know about her. But over times, I've watched her matches for this division, and then if anyone follows Shingo Takagi on YouTube, they did a video together, which was really cute. And So then I was really gutted because as soon as this match was announced, I knew she was going to drop it. I was like, it's inevitable. But even though Britt's return was massive and thing, I really think that Stephanie was a star here. She honestly is so captivating to watch in the ring. And when you're alongside someone like Mercedes Moné, it's so easy to sort of get pushed to the background. But she made sure that she was it. She made sure that even if she lost, people would go out speaking about her. And for me, that's one of the best things I could say, because honestly, she was probably one of the MVPs of the night for me.
Yeah, I think she really rose her stock. She impressed everybody, and she won over that crowd. I don't think it was just the crowd saying that Mercedes was from Boston. It was also Vaquer was that good in this matchup. Kris, what did you think?
Yeah, I think it was a combination, like you said. I thought Mercedes, the green she wore wasn't blatant, but it was pretty prominent. And especially after what the Knicks went through this season. And I've been to New York plenty of times, and I'm from Los Angeles, live in Los Angeles. And the only town that hates the Celtics as much as Los Angeles is probably New York. So I wasn't surprised by that reaction at all. I like the way Mercedes reacted to the reaction. She does this smile at one point in the match where she takes in the boos from the crowd, and then she just smiles, and it's almost like she feels like she's at home a little bit. And yeah, Stephanie Vaquer is just so great, man, and she did rise to the occasion. I like that Britt came back because that adds a layer to it, especially with the reaction that Mercedes got. I thought her coming back with Mercedes getting that reaction was the icing on the cake. And it's just not to go too far off topic, but is Becky Quinn still a free agent?
Rebecca Quinn is a free agent. Yes.
Yeah, so there is some intrigue, and she's probably going to re-sign with WWE, but I do think there's intrigue, I'm not 100% sure she is, but I think just with all the moving pieces in AEW's women's division, that I think this was a great night for the women's division. So I definitely love this match. 4.5 stars for me.
Yeah, and I think it was after this matchup they announced that the Wrestle Dynasty, which will be a New Japan Presents event, it will be the day after Wrestle Kingdom, January 5th, in the Tokyo Dome, with stars from AEW, Ring of Honor, CMLL, and STARDOM. And I 100% saw that, and it came after this matchup. I was like, they legit are doing this because they want Mercedes Moné to come back to Japan and want to give her her Tokyo Dome matchup. That's what I felt like. I was like, They're not going to give her a Tokyo Dome matchup at Wrestle Kingdom. I think they realized they were like, hey, we're not going to give the women that much time at Wrestle Kingdom. So here's another new show in the Tokyo Dome where we could get some women's representation. So maybe we get Moné versus Vaquer 3 because they have really good chemistry together. And I said to Josh when the match was announced, I was like, it's Mercedes versus Hispanic Mercedes, because Vaquer works like Mercedes back like a decade ago. How Mercedes first became prominent as an in-ring performer in NXT. She's just physically intense, and everything she does looks like it hurts her opponent. I love Vaquer in the ring here. What did you think being there live, Josh?
It was great. Matchup was really a fun matchup. Vaquer, that was the first time also I got to watch her. So this was a fun card for me because there was a lot of people that, of course, I follow on TV, but to actually watch them live finally, it was fun. She was one of them, and she was one of them that I was looking forward to watching because I've seen a lot of her great matches. As far as the crowd goes, it was a little weird because when she was coming out, people were cheering, but there was already people in my section who were they were only booing. They were booing, but I think there was some people when I was hearing some of the conversations, it was a little strange because nothing from Boston got brought up. At least on my section, like when they were talking about it, nothing from Boston related got brought up. There was 2 people who were like legit upset that she called herself the best in the world or something like that. Like they were like legit mad about that. She did an interview and she called herself like the best like in the industry or something like that. There was like somebody in front, the dude that was in front of me was like very upset about it. And I started laughing, and I think he heard me laughing, and then he stopped talking about it because I was just like, bro, like that's just fucking ridiculous. Like I'm talking to him, I'm like, that's fucking ridiculous to be upset about something like this. I'm like, what was she supposed to say? Like, what is she supposed to say when it comes to stuff like this? People do it all the time, you know. Like people, you know, like they motivate themselves all the time. You know, they're very confident with themselves, right? But also when she said it, she was in character. So why people are like so like bothered by it? And that was the perception that I was getting from like some of the people. Like they were more upset about that. I know somebody else tried to bring up the fact like I think she was outside. They asked her a question, and I guess she was like that she has like creative control or something. People took actual offense as well. But I'm like, guys, she doesn't have what Hulk Hogan has. Like, relax. It's more of she's talking about like more her character, like what she could do, the stuff that she could control. She doesn't control the wins or losses. Nobody has. Nobody in AEW has that kind of clause. That clause is probably never going to happen again because we saw what happened with WCW when it comes to all that stuff, right? So I think there's like a lot of people who are taking too many things when it comes to Mercedes a little too personally. That was a little weird to hear. Like it was just more funny than anything. But the crowd itself, all of a sudden, they just started turning. And I think part of it too is because they saw how good Stephanie is. And I was like, yeah, I think that's probably what did it. But it worked out well. I mean, hey, we've been saying Mercedes is a great heel. She's a better heel. So fuck it, right? That's how I take it. I'm like, hey, she got the booze and she got the belts. And then, you know, Britt coming back was great. It felt different. Like seeing Britt back, I'm like, oh shit. Like now they got something like there's another gear to the women's division that it's already been presented. It's already improved for almost a year. But now this helps out so much. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a great matchup. Right person won. You know, Stephanie got a lot of momentum from this. She's gonna get a lot more bookings now because of this matchup. So it's good for her. She wins all around, no matter what, right? In real life, I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, you have Britt back. So overall, I mean, it's a great thing.
Yeah, great night for the AEW women's division for sure, with Dr. Britt Baker coming back, and me and Alex are on the same wave. I think you have Mercedes beat Britt in Wembley, and then the return of Jamie Hayter. Give me that. That word. Oh yeah. There's no stopping this trade. This trade is going like Icarus right to the sun for the women's division. Once Jamie.
Yeah, I didn't even think about Jamie Hayter, but yeah, that's another layer to this.
Absolutely. Then we had the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship matchup next. Sonal, I know you were looking forward to talking about this one, as Tetsuya Naito challenged the champion Jon Moxley. Love the touch of all 3 years of Forbidden Door. Moxley does his Death Rider theme, which honestly I feel like Wild Thing should kind of be like a BCC theme, and he should just do Death Rider as his individual theme because it just fits his whole aura. They start slugging it out early. This starts with like a brawl between the two men. We get some corner clotheslines. Naito's in some trouble. They head outside where Moxley drops him right on the announce table. Back in, Naito spits in his face, so Moxley slaps him down for a 2 count. We get a power driver, gives Moxley a 2 count again. He puts Naito on top and rakes his back. Naito's able to slip down through his legs and shoves Moxley to the floor for a big crash. They go back outside where Naito grabs a piece of the barricade and starts beating him up with it, which is a hilarious frenzy, as JR says that's not very tranquilo. JR joined the commentary team for the final 2 matches here. Back inside, Naito fights out of a figure 4. He turns it into a small package for a 2 count. He reverses a Death Rider into a springboard tornado DDT for a 2 count as both men were down. We get a Destino out of nowhere, but no cover. Naito goes for the standard Destino, but Moxley is able to reverse that into a Death Rider. We get another hell of a clothesline, the King Kong Lariat from Moxley, and then he goes for the regular Death Rider and gets only a 2 with Naito barely getting his shoulder up. With nothing else working, Moxley grabs a chair and he's looking to use it, but Red Shoes moves it out the way. And then it just really fell apart towards the end here. I don't know if I feel like they were trying for a Death Rider into another Destino, but Naito just basically was sandbagging Moxley here, and Moxley didn't know what to do. They hesitated at one point. They just started clubbering at each other. It was just a whole mess towards like the last 2 to 3 minutes of this matchup that really just fell apart at the end. And then Naito finally hits another Destino for the 1-2-3. This match nearly going 17 minutes. I wanted this match to be a lot better, but in the end, it really felt like a disappointment, especially after a run of like great match after great match with the ladder match and Stephanie Vaquer and Mercedes Moné. This match felt like a letdown, especially with the end that just really felt sluggish and clunky. So I gave the match overall 3 stars. Sonal, what did you think?
Right, so this is, I said the exact same, I've been saying this for like the past few months for New Japan shows. Internet needs to calm down, okay? When that match finished, and then I went to bed, I woke up to a flood of Naito is washed out, Naito needs this, right. We all know Naito is not in the best condition of his career. Hell, there's quite a lot of the top stars who aren't. Like we mentioned Ishii and people like that. The match, there was a disconnect with me. I don't know whether somebody brought up that Naito never really puts as much effort into US shows, but for some reason, I don't know if it was that. There was just a major disconnect between Moxley and Naito. Naito, I don't think his condition was any worse than it has been, and he has put on some pretty good matches in the past few months. I just think something wasn't right there, and it almost felt like and this is the thing, it takes 2 to tango. People out here blaming Gato, none of this was on Gato, because this, on paper, should have been a great match. Neither Moxley nor Naito really helped this match in any way. Naito wasn't the weak link, Moxley wasn't the weak link. Together, they were both the weak link. I'm obviously happy that Naito has the title back. It's going to be nice to have it in the G1, because again, there's like a new added level of, okay, you don't have to win the G1, you can get a pin to get a title shot. I think judging and saying Naito is washed up from this one match, it reminds me of an SPC, you'll remember this. Do you remember when Tsuji and Uemura had their second match, singles match? Like the Heather's hair, and it wasn't great. We admit that it wasn't as good as their Wrestle Kingdom. The internet was all doom and gloom. It was like, oh, the future of the company is washed up. Oh, it's awful. Just then for like Tsuji to have an amazing New Japan Cup and for Uemura to break out into the King of Pro Wrestling. Everyone just needs to be tranquilo. Okay? If, for example, Naito and Moxley separately had a long list of bad match after bad match after bad match, I might go, okay, maybe this is something to worry about. Again, I'm not saying that Gato is in the right. Like, Gato should have spent the past few months pushing the younger talent. He has to an extent, but not what he needs to with the constant leaving of the Gaikokujins and big names. However, to say Naito is washed up and someone said he was in worse shape than Tanahashi.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
you didn't watch the same show that I did. Then.
Yeah, and everyone and again, it's a lot of the Western fans are, why is Naito still being pushed? Why is Naito still being pushed? Sorry, do you watch the New Japan product?
He's the only star left. ladies and gentlemen. They don't have anyone else. Like literally, our good friend Kirian went on social media today and he was like, yeah, Naito's the only one capable of main eventing Wrestle Kingdom right now. Like no one else. They have two guys in Shingo and Saber Jr. who even on this show prove that they should be main event and top stars in New Japan, but they're not booked like that. That is where I can understand the criticism of Gato, because he should have those guys as top stars and main eventers. Even though it's only been a few months since Okada and Ospreay left, he should be doing more. Like honestly, I'm going to say it because I didn't agree with it from the beginning. The Jon Moxley title reign was a fucking waste. This should have been Zach. This should have been Zach. You needed if you're going to break up the Naito title reign, at least put over one of your guys.
Mm-hmm. So when this title reign first happened, I was very much like an advocate of Jon Moxley. I think most people on the internet will know this. I said, I'm not going to judge this until the end of the reign. The start seemed really promising. He did, within a few weeks, he was back in Japan. He had a real, you know what I mean? Looking back now, it was probably as useless as Jay White's IWGP title reign. But at least with Jay's IWGP title reign, he was a full contract in New Japan star there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I can look back and go, it feels, and I don't know, I saw this on the internet and I didn't think about this. Moxley in America just doesn't seem as interested or as motivated as he does in, he had a better match with Great O'Khan. Do you remember that Great O'Khan match?
That Great O'Khan match hit hard. That was great. Even in the US, he had a great match with Naito 2 months ago. The Chicago match was much better than this match.
Just something felt like a massive disconnect. Like everyone says this about Naito. This is Naito. Naito is never not always think. Moxley, something was missing from Moxley. It just, something didn't feel right.
Yeah. Kris, what did you think about Naito and Moxley here?
I didn't like the match. I don't know who to place blame on. I think they gave Moxley the belt just to say he had that belt, because I know the announcers were harping on that all night, how he's the only guy to hold that belt and a WWE belt and AEW belt or whatever. It was what it was. I was surprised. I actually thought Moxley was gonna win just because of the way Tony Khan is. I thought he was just gonna win because of that. But it was what it was. It wasn't a great match. It was just not a good match.
Yeah. Josh, you were there live, and it felt like that. The New York crowd was like, hey, we got 2 more matches left. We're going to take this one off.
Yeah, I would say a little bit. People are still watching it. I was still watching it. And, when it comes to Naito, I mean, crowd still invested in him. Like, everyone was chanting his name when he was coming out. So, obviously, he's still important to not only New Japan, but when people see him in the US, people still love him. But the match itself, I mean, I thought it was okay until the end, until the last few minutes, I would say. There was a big disconnect. A lot of people did, because when I got outside and I was seeing some of my friends, they did ask me about that. They're like, what did you think about that Moxley and Naito match? And I said the same thing like I did last night. I was just like, that finish, I was like, there's a miscommunication with that finish. I personally said, hey, it was okay. The match was okay. Was it their best matchup? No, because I do think that the other matchup was better. But it was more the finish for me, at least. When it comes to the idea of when people are saying Naito's washed up or anything, I'm like, probably haven't been watching much New Japan to even say that, because this is kind of how he's been working. So it was a little weird when people were saying that, but I'm like, it kind of goes to show you people are not actually watching. You know what I mean? If you're gonna talk or give an opinion on something, you're obviously not watching if you're gonna say something like that. That's just my personal take on that. Especially saying something about about the comparison to Tanahashi and Naito. I'm like, oh no, come on, like don't do that. Don't do that because it's not even close. I would say Naito probably could be like that in another like 6 or 7 years, yeah. But I'm like to say
Maybe
that he's like.
Maybe the people saying it watched the Tanahashi match from 10 years ago and compared it to Naito yesterday.
It could be, you know, and it could be that. But it's just, I don't know. I think, and that's a problem with a lot of US fans where there's one bad matchup, all of a sudden, like this person is washed up, or you know, they kind of just bury it. They don't see like the positives of it. They can just completely bury it. You know, I will say, hey, you know, like when it comes to stuff like that, I mean, I'm like, hey, we've seen worse matchups throughout the year. I mean, like Jimmy and Jay still worse, in my opinion. But I saw Moxley and Naito, and that's just me being honest about that. But again, the right guy won. They needed that title back, so I think that's why they did the matchup too. Because I didn't see a scenario Moxley wins just because I'm like, if he would have fucking retained, I would have been like, what are you guys doing now? Like, Gato, what are you doing? Just get your belt back.
I think especially ahead of the G1 where he wasn't involved in the G1. Like, at that point, I was like, okay, that's actually rubbish. Like, you can't be a champion and not be in the G1.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, again, like I agree with that. And I'm like, again, right, he got his belt back. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I mean, people within another week or two will get over it, move on. That's how I see it. I don't think it hurts neither guy.
Good comparison here by Alex Powell, who says Naito is more like Masawa of 2006, 2008, where he's the only draw in the company. And Masawa was also on the last legs of his run. And I feel like Naito, he's got like probably 2 good years left in him where he can still have great matches and probably still 5 more years of his wrestling career.
Same thing. Like, he's on transition. Like, you know, like he's not gonna be a nice draw. People are still gonna love seeing him. But yeah, I do see that as well.
But I think he said he didn't want to do that. I think he said in a press conference, was it last year, where he was like, he said he doesn't want to do a Tanahashi. He said he wants to go full for like as long as he can, and then he just wants to go. I can't remember.
And I think he is gonna be forced because I know this is like the style Naito works now, where he does more slower pace, but he is significantly slower than he was like 2-3 years ago. It just is what it is. So I do get why some people are trying to compare him to Tanahashi, but he's not nearly.
Like I get the comparison. The thing is, like I get the comparison, but I just think it's a little like, you know, when you kind of just go in the deep end to say like, oh, Tana's better now than what Naito is, then it's just like, that's just you talking shit. That's just how I see it.
You've not been watching Tanahashi's last year of matches.
Seriously. But finally, it was main event time, and this New York crowd woke the fuck up as we had Swerve Strickland going up against Will Ospreay for the AEW World Championship. Both guys with special entrances, as Will came out with a special like video, as well as came out with his Hayabusa outfit and the mask. Then you had my Harlem heart grew 10 times larger as Jim Jones of Dipset came out to introduce Swerve Strickland. I love my good friend Jimmy Vaquer. When I said this to him, he was like, I love Swerve's commitment to the bit of bringing out C and D list celebrities. I was done with that, but I was like, I'm happy because I'm from Harlem, and I used to see Jim Jones on 140th smacking people before he started making music.
Jim Jones in Harlem, come on, man! That D-list celebrity, he's a big deal out there, and the crowd did play along with the balling part, you know.
Absolutely. So get the big entrance for both men, get the in-ring introductions, and I love the camera angles that they did with you seeing it from behind Ospreay's back, from behind Swerve's back. Great camera work to start things off. They lock up. Both men flip out of Hurricane Rana attempts. They both miss kicks and do a standoff. The crowd was way into this from the opening bell. You get Swerve kicks away, but Ospreay chops him into the corner to cut him off. They head outside where Ospreay strikes away, only to be caught in the middle rope with an elbow to the back of the head. Swerve slows things down and chops away as Nana is a bit worried. They go outside again where Swerve loads up. He tries to go for the power driver on the barricade that he did to Hangman Adam Page during their legendary Texas Death Match, but Will reverses and hits a crazy-looking Hurricane Rana off the guardrail. Back in the ring, Swerve manages a short arm scissors, catching Will in midair, but Will's able to slip out of it. Swerve hammers away, but Ospreay gets up and they forearm each other. We get a hidden blade miss, a house call miss. We get Ospreay catching Swerve with a power bomb. He gets a 2 count and then immediately gets him up into a freaking Styles Clash, man. He did that shit so smooth. It was like sweet. We see in the crowd, in the stands, we got Daniel Garcia watching. Meanwhile, backstage, we got MJF watching this matchup. Very interesting here, as Garcia will face Ospreay on Wednesday at Beach Break, while MJF has been having a slow burn feud with Ospreay over the last couple of weeks. They go up to the top again where Swerve grabs a super angle slam that looked really good here, getting a near fall. Swerve takes it to the apron where Ospreay goes for the Os Cutter after a nice looking hook kick, but he misses the Os Cutter and lands directly on his back really hard. Swerve then brings him off of the apron to the announce table. He goes up the top rope and hits the wickedest looking swerve stomp to the chest of Ospreay, and the table nearly exploded. It looked like Swerve's legs was going to come off and Ospreay's body was going to split in half. Then he brings him to the barricade and hits a short power driver on the barricade, paying off the earlier spot. So great storytelling there. He gets him back into the ring and gets a near fall. He tries to go for the JML driver, but Ospreay's able to work out of it. He then tries to go for the swerve stomp, but he waits too long and he's crotched. Ospreay then hits a crazy-looking springboard Os Cutter. He follows up with the standard Os Cutter for a very close near fall. Hidden blade is blocked. The Os Cutter is as well, leaving Swerve to go after the arm. That's broken up, and then he does hit the Os Cutter again. He sets up, and he hits a Stormbreaker, but Swerve becomes one of like 3 people that have kicked out of the Stormbreaker. So great storytelling there as well. Will is looking to go for the kill shot, and he calls for the Tiger Driver 91, but is cradled. Swerve's able to flip out of it into a cradle for a 2 count. We get a hidden blade by Swerve, and he hits it real good. He then goes for the swerve stomp, but Ospreay's able to move out the way. Ospreay then goes for a hidden blade of his own, but Swerve does like a matrix out of it, like a limbo matrix, and Ospreay ends up hitting the referee. He then finally does hit the hidden blade on Swerve, but there's no referee, so out comes Don Callis with the screwdriver, a callback to last year's Forbidden Door. Nana wants none of that. He pushes down Callis as Ospreay grabs the screwdriver. He's pissed off that Nana put his hands on Callis and threatens to hit him with the screwdriver until he realizes, no, wait, I'm a babyface. Let me not do that. He comes back into the ring, and Swerve hits him with a crazy house call that gives Ospreay a fucking black eye. His eye is like fucking swollen the rest of the matchup. He then goes to the top rope, hits the swerve stomp, 1, 2, kick out by Ospreay. That was a close near fall after the second referee comes in. Swerve then goes after the arm of Ospreay, snapping it in half. He then goes for another hot house call that looked perfect right on the side of the face, but Ospreay kicks out again at 2. I was like, holy shit, is he really going to do this? Ospreay is basically stumbling like he's drunk. He's completely like out of it as he goes for a hidden blade, and Swerve does not even sell it. He grabs him, hugs him, and he's like, I'm sad I have to do this. He gets him on his knees, hits a third house call, picks him up, JML driver, the big pressure, 1, 2, 3, 27 minutes of an instant classic as Swerve Strickland retains the AEW World Championship. We get medics coming in to check on Ospreay. We get a nice little show of respect and consoling from Swerve to Ospreay as Swerve goes to ringside, celebrates with flash garments and Jim Jones as Ospreay is also consoled by Kyle Fletcher. This was a match of the year candidate, one of the best matches of the year, and I feel like I've said that like 5 times already for Will Ospreay this year. I don't know if it's on the level of Danielson and Ospreay from Dynasty. That's still my match of the year, but this is very damn close. I gave it 5+ stars. This is one of the best matches of the year, and it showed AEW how a fantastic buildup will have the crowd fully invested, viewing both guys as the top stars. And these guys really showed that they are the 2 guys that can lead AEW to the next level, to the next generation. They're on the brink of this big media rights deal that will for sure make AEW profitable. And you have a guy that's in his mid-30s and a guy that's in his early 30s who can lead the way, along with guys like MJF, Kenny Omega coming back, Hangman Page coming back. This is the AEW main event scene that can take AEW to the next level, and they showed it here. Bonafide match of the year candidate and one of the best AEW World Title matches on pay-per-view ever. Chris, what did you think of Swerve and Ospreay?
I agree. This is definitely my match of the night. We have to check back at the end of the year. Is this going to be my match of the year? I don't know yet. I have to process everything, but this was an awesome match. If Jimmy was on the show today, we would have some words over the Jim Jones disrespect, man. Look, dude, when did that song come out? Like
2007.
07. That song came out in 07, and the crowd knew what to do when he said "We stay fly," all the ball. They knew what to do, man. And there's not too many songs like how many people doing that shit to the Macarena, So I mean, it's like Jim Jones served his purpose. He's not an A-lister, but he is important enough. And it made the most important part about this is it made Swerve look like a big deal. And this is what AEW needs. AEW needs wrestlers that are going to come across as a big deal, And this match, I think these guys needed each other, Ospreay and Swerve. I think they needed to have the match that they had. And I like the story going into the match because Ospreay on Wednesday, at first I actually thought Ospreay could win this match. I was like, yeah, Ospreay, I wouldn't mind them doing a back and forth thing where they hot shot the belt. But when I knew Ospreay was going to lose, when he is automatically telling Garcia that he's going to let him fight for the international title and the world title, it's like, okay, slow your roll, dude. That's, you're just disrespected the opponent you got in front of you. And what's his name? The announcer, the mask guy, Excalibur. Sorry about that. But Excalibur even mentioned that in the match too. I thought the story was great for this match. I think this match overachieved. If you were falling asleep at the last match, this match woke you up. Definitely my match of the night. And we will, again, end of the year. Ospreay's just continue to deliver for them. Swerve, I think for all the people that talk shit about Tony Khan and how he books the black talent, like, he's done. I could give this Swerve title run a comfortable passing grade now. There's still more time left, but I think you got to quit moving the fucking goalpost when it comes to this stuff. And I'm talking specifically to my LA friend Alfred. you gotta stop this shit, man. This match did what it was supposed to do.
Oh, the cheese guy.
Cheese and crackers.
I can't stand him, bro. Like he's
Yeah,
he's
I
by
get,
far the absolute worst. He's
yeah,
the worst.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. But anyway, yeah. So this was a great match, man. That's all I got to say for right now.
Sonal, as a New Japan fan that probably didn't catch all the build to this matchup, what did you think watching this one?
I'm going to say I'm glad that I decided not to watch it last night while I was very tired. And I woke up and watched it with like a fresh head. Because I actually really got to enjoy it properly. Now, I know about Ospreay. I know about Strickland. Again, I didn't know the story, but I already knew that this match was going to be amazing. Because you've got two guys who have different upbringings in the rest of the world. But at the core of it are both phenomenal athletes. There was like amazing in-ring action, but then at the story, I remember when the ref got knocked and Don Callis came in, and I thought, oh, this is going to ruin the match completely. But then seeing Ospreay almost fight with his inner demons, I liked that. Like Don Callis didn't have any impact on the match, but it added another layer to Ospreay's story, which I liked. And because I was worried that it was going to be, I can't remember which show it was where Don Callis pissed me off with the Empire. Like, I can't remember which one it was.
I think it was last year's Forbidden Door when he interfered in the Kenny match with Ospreay.
Yes, that one. Yeah, I was really worried that we was going to do another thing, but it didn't. And like, I feel like it was the right decision. Like again, I don't know the storylines going, but I feel because Ospreay's got a title, doesn't he? He has his
the international title.
So I feel like that is more than enough for him at the moment. He's only a few months into his full-time AEW career. He has this mid-card title. Let him elevate that before you start giving him like double belts and stuff. I just don't think I'm not a fan of double belts when they are two very prominent singles ones.
Yeah. Honestly, this match was so good. I want Swerve to hold the title for over a year so they can run it back at Wembley next year. Will wins the Owen next year, and he can beat and end Swerve's reign at Wembley Stadium next year. This was
someone's phoning Tony Khan up right now, and they're writing down everything SP3 is saying right now. Like, right, this is next year's.
But this really, I agree with Kris. This elevated Swerve's championship reign, and honestly, to me, the through 6 months, it was a 2-man race for Wrestler of the Year between Cody Rhodes and Will Ospreay. Now Swerve has entered into the conversation. He entered into the chat, and now it's a 3-man race between those three for Wrestler of the Year so far. Josh, what did you think being there live with Swerve and Ospreay?
Easily best matchup of the night. Great. I mean, again, I this is what I expected from both of these guys. Build-up was great, and match ended up paying off. So I mean, overall, it was a great matchup, a great night. Seeing Jim Jones, I mean, it was cool. Like, I don't mind it too much. I'm just kind of glad he didn't fall off the stage like he did in Versus. So that's a positive.
Wait! I heard that he did have a accident climbing over this gate. Jim Ross mentioned that on commentary that he fell on his ass. So it wasn't captured on camera, but Jim Ross did mention that.
Yeah, no, because at Versus he fell off the stage and then he tried to like use the line of, "Oh, my ring fell off, so I had to go in the crowd." I was like, "Nah, bro, you fell off the stage. You fell off the stage and you trying to play it off." But I mean, overall, it was great. The whole thing with Swerve, I mean, I think it's a positive thing, right? Because we've seen it constantly with Swerve when it comes to like rap, the rappers coming out and stuff like that. Like he had West Side Gun come out recently, right? Like a Collision, right? I'm not the biggest West Side Gun fan, but I think it does help like elevate like when it comes to like pop culture and stuff like that. He's very big on that, and it's not like it's like a cheap plug. Like these are a lot of guys that he actually knows. So I think that's it's a good thing when it comes to stuff like that. But the matchup itself, I mean, like, man, every time I see a Will Ospreay match in person, it's just like, how is Will gonna really top this or top that? And he always like finds a way to either like to elevate himself, and it's just at this point it's like pretty insane to watch. I don't think I've never seen anything like this in my life. Like being a wrestling fan, like, you know, like when it comes to like, right, everybody always brings up like, oh, my favorite is Stone Cold, everyone's my favorite's HBK, Bret Hart, and all this stuff, right? But I've never witnessed anybody to this extent again, that every time you watch a match, we're just like, all right, we know we're gonna get a great matchup. What else he's gonna do? And he always finds a way to do something that we either haven't seen or just still like keep us on the edges of our seats, and that's what he's been doing. But again, you know, when it comes to the actual win, the right guy did win. There was no indication for me that Ospreay was going to win, more so because he does have the other title. He does have the other title. I just didn't see them putting both the titles on him right away. And then, you know, some of the inside that me and SP3 got, you know, Will technically doesn't want that title yet. Like he's being patient about it. He doesn't want that title yet. So they went the right route when it comes to that. But then also Swerve, I think, has been a great champion, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the criticisms we've had about his run has nothing to do with him himself. It has to do with how he's been used. And he's handled himself great. Like the way, you know, like when he responds to the criticism, he's handled himself so great to the point that it's like when you really actually see him talk about it, it's like, oh, wait, he's right. He does do this stuff, and he's been doing that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, again, you know, his reign has been, you know, to me is a positive one. Should they be doing certain things more? Absolutely, right? If they find a way to build the shows around him like they did that week where he showed up, he was in the crowd watching the match, and they do stuff like that, then I think this ring could go a long way. And it's only benefiting him. I think he's showing that he's one of the best already, in my opinion, you know, and this is a big fumble. In my opinion, this is a big fumble that WWE did because they had him and they let him go. And look, now he's a top star in another company and he's continually just proving himself. He could be marketable, you know, not only outside of wrestling, inside wrestling with his matches and his promo skills. He's doing it all. So, I mean, it's really fun to see him.
Right. You know, he's proven that he made the right decision going to AEW. And to piggyback off what you just said, Josh, if Swerve wasn't delivering in the ring, the pomp, the circumstances with the boxers coming out and the rappers coming out and all the celebrity endorsements he get, it wouldn't mean anything if he wasn't doing his part. So let's give the man his flowers.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's been great to see, especially for somebody like he was one of the first guys. Like when I started watching independent wrestling, I remember the very first match I saw of him. It was in the Bronx, and somebody told me, right, he was coming out. He was like the co-main event. He was co-main eventing Drew McIntyre, by the way, who was defending one of his titles for the show. And, you know, somebody was like, yo, like, you got to watch this kid. This kid is really special, right? And he absolutely killed it. And I was just like, yo, like, who is this guy? I started looking him up. And I'm like, yo, I definitely got to start I really got to start following him. So to see where he was at to where he's at now, it's like two completely different guys. But his drive and his motivation has always been there. So it's really fun to see that.
Yeah, and you can say the similar thing with Will Ospreay. I remember the first time I saw him was the Ricochet matchup in 2016, and just the flips and how that went viral. And he has changed so much from there, where he has more high impact. His psychology, his selling is on point, and this was really like a showcase of his storytelling element, like his character work of him being. He basically was bipolar in this matchup. Where he was like, one moment he's like, no, I'm not sure if I should use the screwdriver. Then he's threatening Nana with the screwdriver until he remembers, oh yeah, I'm babyface. Let me not do that. And that cost him.
Didn't he say he wasn't going to even use the Tiger Driver 91 anymore, and then going to want to do that too, right?
Yeah. Because I thought the finish of the matchup would be he hesitates to use the Tiger Driver, which he kind of did because he called for it. And then Swerve would use the Tiger Driver on him. I didn't get that, but the finish was just as good. So great match of the year candidate.
Yeah, so like when you were saying about Ospreay, because I would say when it comes to Ospreay, the biggest criticism that Ospreay has gotten for a long time was like his psychology in the ring, was his selling. Because we all see he has skill, right? I remember this first, like you mentioned, the first time I saw Will Ospreay was I think it was a Jay White match at World of Worlds. That was the first time I saw him live, and that was my match of the night. And this was like even before like I started like really focusing on Will Ospreay and his stuff. And when I saw that match, I was like, man, these guys were good. Like these guys are really good. Even though Jay White was still in the point where he was good in the ring, but he just didn't have the charisma that he has now. So Will Ospreay was always like the big focus point, but to see where he was at then to now, he's even better now. And I think he was doing crazier stuff then, but now I think he's even better now. He's doing less of that.
And you get if you get Jay White into the main event scene, then this may be like an all-time main event scene in AEW.
After that promo,
Ospreay, Swerve, Jay White, MJF, Kenny Omega coming back.
After that promo he did.
Yeah.
After that promo he did on Christian Cage, that convinces me. Like, yeah, you need this man needs a singles run, please.
Absolutely. But last call for super chat donations. Come on, guys. We talked about Forbidden Door for the last 2.5 hours. So let's show some love with a super chat donation. Keep coming with those comments and let us know your match of the night. MVP, LVP, out of 10, what did you give the show? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. But for all of us, let's put our thumbs in the middle for AEW NJPW Forbidden Door 2024 in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up. Is that thumbs in the middle or thumbs up, Sonal?
Like
thumbs in the middle?
In between the middle and the top.
Orange Cassidy, thumbs up from Sonal, and thumbs up from me, Kris, and Josh. Out of 10, Sonal, what did you give the show?
An 8. Just because obviously the IWGP World Champion was a bit sad for me.
Understandable. I'm going to go with an 8.5 out of 10. I feel like the main event upped it up just a little bit to 8.5 for me. Kris?
Right now, I'm giving it a 7.5. I'm going to go back and watch it later, but the way Bleacher Report fucked me with how many times this thing stalled out on me was just annoying as hell. But I think once everything's all said and done, I'll probably move it up to an 8, but you can't do that to me. I think they're giving me a coupon, so if they do that, then I'll go higher, but that shit just annoyed me, and it did it a lot during the Swerve match too. So unfortunately they went about 27 minutes, so but still.
Josh?
I'm gonna give it a 8.75 because it was fun being there. It was well worth it for me to be there in person, so I enjoyed it. I felt like I got my money's worth. The main event was great. Some of the other matches were great. Some of the matches, I don't think it should have been on the card. Some of it should have been moved around. I do agree with a lot of stuff like that. But overall, like, do I feel satisfied going? Yes.
Yeah.
Match of the night, I gotta give it to Swerve and Ospreay. Kris?
Swerve and Ospreay, that was easily for me.
Sonal?
I like to change it up a bit. Shingo versus Bryan Danielson.
That is fair. Josh?
Ospreay versus Swerve.
MVP for the show. We'll start with Josh here. Who you got?
I got Swerve.
Sonal.
Stephanie.
Like that. Kris?
Yeah, I almost want to give it to Stephanie, but I have to give it to Swerve and Ospreay. I just thought those two for being newbies, like in helping AEW. Like Swerve is a WWE reject, and Ospreay is coming there like he's famous, but not everyone from the States knows who he is, and they just rose their stock up so much. Everybody's going to be talking about it today. That Jim Jones song is probably up on iTunes, like up the charts on iTunes. So we'll see. But yeah, great night, man.
I'm gonna do a little bit different. I'm gonna go co-MVP for the main card women's division. Yeah, I'm giving it to all the women that were on the main card. Mariah May, Timeless Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, Stephanie Vaquer, Mercedes Moné, and the returning Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. The women's division were definitely highlighted the most it's ever been on a Forbidden Door card. So I got to give it to the women's division here. LVP for the show, unfortunately, we said, we defended him a lot when we talked about the matchup, but got to give it to Tetsuya Naito and Jon Moxley. That was the most disappointing matchup of the night. So I got to give it to them. Sonal?
I got a headache from Chris Jericho, so it's Chris Jericho.
That's also fair. Kris?
Yeah, I got to give it to Jericho again. He didn't annoy me as bad on this pay-per-view like he did the last one I reviewed with you guys, but I got to go with Jericho.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm gonna go, not Jericho itself, but probably the match itself. I'm gonna give that match just because, again, a lot of people that was their bathroom break, so I gotta give it to them.
But that brings us to a close. Oh wait, my LVP. Oh yeah, I gave mine to. Yeah, Naito and Mox. I almost forgot. I was about to join y'all up with Jericho, but yeah, I'll give it to Naito and Mox. Disappointing matchup of the night. But that brings us to a close on our AEW NJPW Forbidden Door review. I want to thank Josh, Kris, and Sonal for joining me today to break down this huge 15-match card. Sonal, you're first up. Let everybody know where they can follow you on social media and when we will see you again, as we are almost at G1 season.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, on X, at wrestling_chat. Make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube at Sonal's Live. I have literally a few hours ago put out my review of the entire show. And yeah, make sure to follow Tru Heel Heat to find out when I'm going to be back next on this channel, because yeah, like SP3 said, it is G1 season, and that is always exciting.
Absolutely. Kris, thank you so much for joining us again. Let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter at KMEasyDoesIt, as it says on the screen. You can follow me on TikTok. I do political TikTok, so you can follow me. Just search Christopher Ely. That's Christopher with a K and 2 Fs. And then you go listen to the N.W.A. every third Sunday of the month on Post Wrestling. And you can follow us on TikTok. We are at KOS_pod. And I think later on today, we are doing a new episode of Kings of Sport on Post Wrestling. So look out for that.
And finally, Josh, let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow me, JMPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. And I'll be on for Elite Heat on Wednesday and Tru Heat 284 on Saturday.
Yes, in the meantime, between time, check out yesterday's Tru Heel Heat 283, where we broke down this week in wrestling. Really fun podcast with our final predictions for Forbidden Door. Talk about Dijak leaving WWE, plus much more. We got plenty of great content coming up this week as we're gearing up for Money in the Bank weekend. Money in the Bank's on Saturday, so we'll have a preview, I believe, Wednesday for that. On Friday, we'll have a preview for NXT Heat Wave, which is going to be on Sunday, and we'll have a watch party for Money in the Bank on Saturday. So stay locked for that, as well as AE Ramble and Rated Raw Review, as well as our shorts. You can follow us on the Twitter machine, Facebook, and TikTok at Tru Heel Heat. Patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month gets you exclusive content. That's the best place where you can support us when we are not live here on the channel, and show us some love over on all those social media platforms. ProWrestlingTees.com, ForYourWear.com. Get your Tru Heel Heat merchandise. And of course, you stay locked here. Hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content, because we're coming back for more as we come in the weeks to come, and this week as well. So for Josh, for Professor Kris, for Sonal, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. This has been our AEW NJPW Forbidden Door review. We are signing off until next time.